Sweet.
I'm coming to you live from football practice.
Yeah,
Again.
my garage setup, I put some time into this thing. It's pretty legit.
Looks good.
All right, guys. Oh, hang on a second. Now it's going to do this. Hang on.
I'm coming to you live from football practice.
See,
Again.
my garage setup, I put some time into this thing. It's legit. Hang on.
Sweet.
Okay. All right, we are live, guys. I'm sorry. Whenever I go live, my garage setup, I put some time into this thing. Is that still? I can still hear myself.
Okay, sorry, that was me.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So when I go live, it like pops YouTube up, and then all of a sudden you can just hear everything we just said. So we are live. I'm coming to you from the garage. Just raw today. Tony, football practice. Top 5 dad. Top 5 shipper. Top 5 human being.
Top 5 grumpy
Top
old
5
man.
in social networking because of all the people he was introduced to. He didn't do any of it himself. He was introduced to everybody by somebody.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
He loves that. So hey guys, we're gonna dig in a little bit here on fleet management. Something I love. It's something that really right now actually, you know, we talk a lot about brokerage and where the market is and what you're doing and all that, but it's weird because the feeling of going from brokerage to like so when I went to the asset side was there's so much freight and everybody wants to give you this freight, but you only have so many trucks. And your customers are wanting you to do this and wanting you to do that. And it's like, you've always been waiting for that, right? Like I can land a new customer, I get new freight, a new division, whatever it is, but you got to have the trucks. And then on top of that, then you got to make sure your guys are doing it correctly because they're making money now. They're going to want to run. They're going to take care of their truck, hours of service, things like that, all these different things that make a difference. And so there's a lot of explanation and coaching that goes into it because there's a lot of owner operators, especially when the market's up, that get in that are new. That maybe we're company drivers and become owner operators, or we're owner operators and become company drivers. So, you know, that aspect there, you know, that mindset's tough, right? You're in a truck and, you know, for X amount of time and you're thinking, right? You've got all this time to think about, you know, imagine as a broker, every time you took a load and then you got that load and then you had to sit by yourself and think about that load for 24 to 48 hours. I mean, all the scenarios would come through your mind and all this stuff. So your wife's calling, you know, where are you at? You know, you took a load, you did this. So there's a lot of dynamics to it that are in depth and can help those on the brokerage side and even those that are managing a fleet because there's a lot that goes into it. So Timothy Tang, he's been a big supporter of the show. Been great.
Day one.
Always around. He's like a Nick Roomer. Always there and always helping it, which is great because, you know, we put a lot of time in and do this every week. And even though we're busy, but we just feel it brings value. And to be honest with you, I don't want to sound selfish, but it brings value to me too. I learn a lot from everybody I meet, kind of from Tony, but mostly everybody else I meet. So Timothy, give us a little background on yourself. You know, what you've done up to this point and what you're doing now.
Sure. I used to drive too. I was a junior truck driver. Did day cab at Hazmat Final Mile. Then I got into fleet management, basically dispatching. Started moving up, and now I'm doing transportation and fleet management with, dedicated fleets in my JB HUD. So my daily basis basically is I was just telling Tony capacity planning, compliances, KPI reports for my managers to see what's going on. Literally, me and Tony was talking about today. Like my planning today for capacity planning was perfect. It worked out really well. I had enough trucks. I know we bank money today, literally. And tomorrow too, I'm planning. As right now, I'm planning too. And I really strong you to do KPIs and matrix report almost every weekly. For, you know, cost of miles, revenue, empty miles. Empty miles is a huge thing right now. I see personally for me, my experience is if I see anything over 20% of empty miles, I do not. I got really mad and just started like, dude, we need to throw that down. That's wasting a lot of gas, wasting a lot of empty miles we could have utilized. So that's what I do for my reports, for my upper management and my directors.
Mm-hmm. How much of your day do you spend planning tomorrow?
Maybe like a couple hours, depending what depending on what kind of loads will I have tomorrow, what I have to do for the next 2 days. I try to plan that for a day or two ahead, basically, in case something happens, or driver
Right.
call out, or a truck breaks down, like, during the time, and I gotta find a truck. So those are the things I always have to plan, basically.
That I've run a fleet too, and that's exactly what I was talking about. I was talking to TJ about this the other day. We were talking about running the loads, and was that you? I don't know, maybe that wasn't you I was talking to, TJ, but we were talking about I want to get where I'm at now to where we're looking at tomorrow instead of answering the hot emails from today, because I want to have tomorrow's loads already all planned out before we go home today. And it's really hard to do when your fleet's running multiple rounds and you're local with, OEM supplier. You're going, each truck is doing 2-3 rounds a day locally. And it's hard, when you're regional, it's easy to plan a truck a day, a load, and be done, and have a backup, pull somebody off something, and that load goes tomorrow. But you pull one truck, you're talking 3-4 loads a day, and that's a huge financial impact to the bottom line, much less the customer. So having extra capacity, like, we're basically going to overcompensate on capacity just so that we can not have a hiccup, take something, if truck breaks down or whatever, we're going to end up having the ability to cover everything that's due anyway.
Yep.
I just wondered, it was just curious as to what somebody else does in their day for planning tomorrow, today.
And with drivers, you almost have to work ahead because, it's a little bit different, what I'm used to, because I'm used to owner operators. So they're not company drivers. And, we've got open board, we've got, X amount of customers. And then we run we really have to plan where these guys are going to be and where they're going to go. Now they tell you what they like and what they want to do, but you got to plan a day or two ahead because they want to know, like, okay, yeah, I got you this load. They're want to know what's next. Like, why are you sending me here? What's coming back? What we got? It's like, you got to be out ahead of it. And then on top of that, like, you really want to talk about slang and freight. Like, people talk about slang and freight. Like, when I learned how to slang freight, get on an asset side in a dispatch with owner operators and an open board with freight. That's like, I'm telling you, because you love freight. And so you're like, I'll take those loads. They're paying great. All right, I'll have this guy over here. Okay, John, you're going to run over here, pick this up, run over, drop the trailer. Okay, grab it empty, run, get loaded here, bring that loaded trailer back, finish this load off. I'll have Steve come in, grab that. I mean, I'm telling you, it's like, it's crazy. And then you got to have enough trailers, right? So say you take 6 loads and you only got 4 trailers on site. All right, I got to get 2 more trailers. All right, X release in Indy. I got one rented. I get it there tomorrow. Just pay Bill whatever. Just pay him whatever to take it over there, right? And so it's like, it's like a whole way of doing things. And then there is deadhead, right? And so sometimes you got to justify maybe the miles, or whatever it is. And so sometimes deadhead's better, right? So if I'm running a Reading, PA, I sometimes, a lot of times, the market now is not like that, but how it used to be, I'd have a guy deadhead towards Pittsburgh, right? So a lot of those toll roads are weight. And so you could pick up a load out of Reading, PA for $1 a mile. Everybody knows Reading and that area is going to be water, whatever, heavy, Pepsi, something heavy, coming across for $1 a mile, or you could deadhead 180 miles and pick up something for $2 a mile, still get you back to Ohio. You ran empty across toll roads. At the end of the day, per mile, you're still where you need to be. So there's a lot of like planning and things that go into it that I mean, it's truly where I learned to like slang, like put things together, get creative. And like, I had this knack for like knowing where people were, like, hey, like, people would be like, I don't know what we're going to do. We got to cover this load for Ford, or whatever it is. And Bill's at home, man. He just ran home. He said he could be there. If he drops there, he could drop it there, his trailer there, do this and that, and come up with all these different things. But what happens though is that in a market like this, that can get you in trouble, because for a while there, when you take more freight and you really can manage it, now it's like customers are calling you saying, I need you to take more freight, saying I need more trailers, not letting you come in and grab an empty, right? They want to keep that empty on, I'm telling you, shippers aren't angels. Okay. So they're hey, we need an X amount of empties. Why? Oh, Bill just called. He said actually that trailer's a quarter loaded. So now they're using it for storage. Right. So, I mean, there's things that are happening that you got to be prepared for and be able to pivot quickly. So how much do you run into that, Timothy? Because I do owner operators. You've got obviously JB Hunt's company trucks. How much do you run into that type of thing?
we actually run into even more problems. A lot of it is also yard management. You know what I'm saying? You talk about empties, right? We're not like right now, I'm suffering for empties, but we have a
Yep.
lot of return trailers or products coming back. And right now it's just like, well, I got probably more than a dozen trailers down with mud flaps or holes in the roof or damages basically. And just like, we got to get repaired. You know what I'm saying? We're building a customer each day, each month for how many trailers we build for them.
Huh?
You know, and it's tough. It's trailers is even worse than trucks because
Yep.
what's my ratio, like 3-1 in the company right now? 4-1 with trailers.
Yep.
I deal with about 300 trailers a day, J-Boat trailers. And it's just difficult basically. Like we actually just got new trailers from Indiana. It's a Lafayette in Indiana basically, and it's still not enough. We need 30 more, 40 more. It's just costly. You know, it's just costly to JB Hard. It's costly for the customer too.
I had
Be
to
there
say,
Monday.
I took a guy that had been dispatched for a while, but he's big on equipment and everything, and literally just put him in charge of trailers. Because again, we had 300 trailers, 100 drivers. So 3-1, that was our whole company. I mean, that's just your fleet. I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's a lot. I mean, so that's true, because now guys are flying in and out. They know they can make the money if they get there, drop that trailer. But what they're not doing is they're not doing their pre-checks and post-checks on these trailers. All right. So they're going to drop this trailer. They know, has a bald spot on a tire, has a mud flap missing or whatever it is. And they're going to drop it anyways for the next guy to deal with. Then the next guy gets there and he's calling going, God dang it, man. Now I got a flat tire. Now you got to go to the Loves. Right. And because they're in a hurry. Right. So I had to implement processes there in which, if you've got a trailer that needs taken care of, we'll pay you X amount per hour to take it to Loves, just document that or whatever it is. And if we find out, and I've got this guy's old school, his name's Galen, he's been around forever. So he loves being an asshole. So if he finds out that, you dropped a trailer without doing a post-check, now you're getting a 1-day suspension, no loads. You know what I mean? Like those are things. And then the first time I had to do it, just like my kids almost, I'm not comparing my drivers to kids. I'm saying the first time you do it, throw a fit, but you got to follow through, man. You got to follow through. And I get them on the horn to explain it to them. Like, if I don't do it, I have to do this. Because if I don't, I can't do it for everybody, but it makes a difference because that stuff gets around the fleet, that, hey man, TJ shut me down for a day because of this. And so, you got to look into it, make sure it's not, actually, it is their fault. But there's a lot of carelessness that goes on because there is so much pressure, not just from, your dispatcher or whatever it is, but you got brokers calling, right? You got them, where are you at? Where are you going? Where are you doing? And so a lot of times that's a disconnect. There's such a fine line between, a dispatcher taking a load for a driver and understanding if he can actually run it. So a lot of times the broker may take the blunt, as in the blunt of the negativity, because it's like, oh, this broker's like calling me all the time, forcing me or whatever. Well, the dispatcher agreed to it, told him he had X amount of hours when he actually only had X amount of hours. Drivers lost. I always tell brokers, always call the driver, talk to the driver. There's a lot of dispatchers that don't even get along with their drivers. Okay. So, always call the driver, make sure he's good to go on it. I don't know how many times I could just tell a dispatcher's kind of, oh, he's got plenty of hours, you can run it. I call the driver's like, I'm at home. I told him not to take a load for me. I'm like, God dang it. So be aware of that. Not every operation's perfect, but it takes a lot of work. And, that's why KPIs are so important, because at the end of the day, I can sit down. If a driver's not doing what he's supposed to do, you call a driver and tell him that he's not doing what he's supposed to be doing. He's going to give you every reason in the world why. But if you call him and you send him an email with these numbers and you call him and you go through each one of them and you've got something to compare month to month to or week to week to, now you're not really calling him out or anything. You're just saying, hey, let's look at where we're at, and I think they start to understand it. It gives them kind of a goal even. But again, I've always dealt with owner operators, and just having that relationship with them is key, because they could leave and go somewhere else the next day. So you can't be mean to them or anything. So I tried to play a firm but understanding role. A lot of the good drivers knew if they wanted to get something done, they just called my cell. And they'd always, I'm going straight to the boss man or whatever. I'm like, I'm not, you got to go through your dispatcher on this, but so there are a lot of ins and outs. And so Will, give us a little bit of what you see on your end right now on how important is it to not only have a relationship when we talk about carrier sourcing, have a relationship with a carrier, with that go-to guy, the guy you're emailing, talking to, G-chat, and whatever it is, Slack, dispatcher, or, even if it's an operations manager? And how important do you see that as in actually having a relationship with the drivers as well? Knowing those drivers too, not just the dispatch, the guys you go through.
Yeah, so I've always been the individual that would say exactly what you said around making sure you're talking to the drivers specifically, because drivers always shoot you straight. They tell you what's going on. Hey, I'm at home, or I'm not unloaded, or I don't have the hours to run this. And they'll tell you that before it's an issue versus, finding out 2-3 hours before the load is supposed to pick up. So it's extremely important. But I think the two pieces of it that matter the most in the environment today, having a relationship with the dispatcher or the lead dispatcher. So who is the person that is going to say, yes, we're taking that load, or no, we're not, as long as the driver can do it, right? The driver's got hours. It makes sense for what the driver needs. But who's that person that's going to say, yes, we're going to do that? Because in this market, you can get money from anyone, right? MOLO is not the only option for you to get a load that pays well for you, that goes to where you need to be. There's an abundance of freight. So if we're not the first option, and there's a lot of different people that you can source freight from, it puts us in a bad spot if we don't have a good relationship with the person that's going to say, yes, you're taking that load, or this is one that we want to handle for you because you always do well by us, right? So I think it's more important now in a market that's as hot as this is, that you have relationships across different levels with your carrier partners, driver level, dispatch. Okay, who's above dispatch? Is there like a lead dispatcher? Do you have, relationships with the managers, the load planners? Do you have a relationship with the owners? You're working with a lot of smaller to mid-sized fleets. So you might be on the phone dispatching with the owner. So the owner's got 10 trucks, so they're doing everything there, right? But if you have a good relationship with that person, they're going to remember the way that you were able to help them keep their trucks loaded. And yeah, they see a load on DAT that pays $200-300 more. They're not going to pull their driver off and put them on that because they want to take care of you. However, if it's someone that you don't have a relationship, there's less skin in the game for them to want to do that, right? What's the advantage for them to not go take a load that makes more money for them, or to not go do something that's more advantageous? There's no reason for them to really treat you well. So you really have to dig into the relationship aspect. And I think that, we're very far away from a market downturn. There's nothing pointing to that being the case. It's going to be quite some time before that occurs. But on both sides, brokerage, on the shipper side, and on the asset side, you'll see the companies thrive, and those will be the ones that took care of people during this time, right? The companies on the asset side that manage their relationships well, didn't overextend themselves. We know it's challenging, but committed capacity and made sure that the capacity was available, will get the opportunities when it's really, really hard, because the logistics managers at the shippers will say, freight is slow, but ABC Trucking had a truck for me every day when it was really, really, really tough. So I'm not going to take loads from them and give it to somebody else. Likewise, me as a broker, I'm going to say, man, TJ or whoever, they took care of me when it was crazy, right? When the market was at 28 on this and we figured that we could buy at 25, they came through at 25 every time and said, hey, that's a fair rate. We feel good about that. We can make money on it. We're not going to gouge you all. And we're going to feed carriers like that freight. And so it's important to make sure you foster those relationships across levels in every facet of the business, because this business is so much so relationship driven, and it always will be. There's no way that it's going to stop.
That's key right there. And I've always preached that. I've been so big on that, because the reality of it is this, in brokerage, it's kind of sink or swim. Like, sometimes you bring in bodies and you throw them at the wall and see who sticks, and you're making outbound calls and stuff. But like, dispatchers are decently hard to come by, and people will hire them in, and they're not always high quality. I'm just gonna put it out there. I mean, really, a lot of times you're getting guys that are, and here's the other deal. A lot of time on brokerage, you've got like a commission or an incentive based pay, and in dispatch, it's usually just salary, right? So a lot of these guys are just wanting to get home, and they don't care. They don't, like you said, they don't have skin in the game, and there's certain levels that are like a day out, another level, maybe a week out, a higher level, maybe a director, maybe, months out, and a ops manager. But having those conversations, because if you want to talk about like carrier sourcing and sourcing on a lane, like the only person that's going to care that's actually months out, that's thinking about months, maybe a year out, is the higher level. The other people are just thinking about getting their drivers covered and going home. Right. Now there are some great dispatchers that don't do that. I'm just saying that there are quite a few that want to just get their drivers covered and move on. Right. These drivers are being a pain in the ass. So this guy's being a pain in the ass. I'm just going to get him a load and move on. I'm not dealing with him. But like having those conversations, explaining those things, like Will said. I don't know how many times, and Will, I did it with a lane that we took from you guys, some backcaller, but drivers will call and be like, hey, I was looking at the board, or I was talking to a guy at the truck stop. He said he's getting that same lane for 17. We're at 15. I'm like, listen, and I'll have a dispatcher come to me like, this guy's being a pain in the ass. He said he didn't want it because he said he can get it for 17. I said, let me get on the horn with him. Right. Higher level, thinking farther out. Right. So I get on the horn. I said, listen, we've been at 15 with these guys since before this, and we'll be at 15 after this. Okay. I know they've got a contracted rate. I don't care what they have in it. We got 15. And for a while there, that was great. And right now it's $200 off, and you want to drop that relationship. Here's the key in this relationship. You like running this lane it's a backhaul that we're taking. You love running the head haul for this customer, right? The key to that is having this piece back. Listen, you're going to save yourself money knowing the shipper, knowing the receiver, right? Get to know those people, know that lane. You don't want to do something, just pick it up for 200 extra bucks and go in somewhere who knows what's going on. You don't know anybody. This is what I'm doing. This is my mindset here. I'm trying to protect your pay for when the market does drop, or when something does go crazy, or say this other guy doesn't have a load. Maybe he got it off spot bid. He's got it, they had an extra load. He's got it only one time. Why ruin that relationship? And I explain what my mindset is. And these guys get it. You know what I mean? You just got to explain that to them. And sometimes even a broker can explain, like as a broker, you can explain that. Like if you're talking to a driver, like owner operator, you can explain like, hey, listen, I know that you could probably get this for 17, but if I got this contract, I can give you 15 every single day. I've got this. I know I do. If you're seeing other people, they may get it off spot because there's extra loads. You can have those conversations with these guys and they'll get it. They'll understand because they want job security. They want longevity as well. And sometimes they're chasing that money and they're on the road and they're moving, they got people in their ear at home or whatever it is. But like, if you actually explain the business part of it, they get it.
I always say, I can't fault a company for going out and finding freight that is profitable, that makes sense for them, because I understand the ebbs and flows of this business, right? So if you can make a particular amount of money right now, you need to go do it. I'm never going to be the person to say, oh my gosh, right? How could you not take our maybe a little bit cheaper load because you got something that made more money? Look, you got to make money, right? But you don't want to be the partner that does that when it's consistent and you are constantly putting people in bad positions where it puts a bad taste in their mouth, right? And, this is a business on both sides. Everyone's got to find a way for it to be profitable and for them to be able to succeed. But the ones that end up doing the best are the ones that you can have those long-term conversations with, where they go, yeah, I'm not going to be upset over $200 because in 10 months, in aggregate, it's all going to be a wash anyway. That's just like, it's understanding the numbers long-term, but not everybody gets it like that. And, when I spent the beginning of my career developing carriers, which I enjoyed thoroughly, you got to know who's available when. I had my contracted carriers that I knew I could go and find freight for, and they were taking it for 6 or 12 months. They're never complaining about rates. They just need backhauls. And I'm like, I love you. You're my favorite humans in the world. And then I had my later in the day carriers that were more transactional, and I couldn't get that guy to book a load at 8 a.m. for my life. But at 4 p.m., when the load was paying more than it was at 8 a.m., that dude was like, send it over. I'm like, well, I mean, I kind of need you. Like it happens. Everybody's got their place. So
it's true. And that's one of the keys. Like my job at, overseeing a fleet was to make money on the head haul. That's my job, is to work with the customer, right? My pricing, negotiate that rate. Okay. The backhaul, I just got to get you back to customer freight. I can take care of my customers. So I'm not as worried about the rate as I am about just having somebody I can rely on and I can go to and trust. So, and that's somebody that'll have my back. So yeah, $200 on a load. I explained this to these guys. You guys have got to see this from a full business standpoint. If that $200, you'll get back easily in detention that isn't paid. These guys will pay us every single time, right? Detention that isn't paid, tone use that aren't paid. I mean, how much of this stuff are you guys willing to risk to go into a shipper you don't know or work with a broker you don't know when you end up, if you really look at it, you end up losing that. It ends up being a wash, or even worse, you end up making less because you didn't get paid those hours. You didn't get paid this or that. You were late now to get back to that customer because that route just didn't work as well. And now you're late to you may lose that lane from the customer. Right. So thinking about it from that mindset of like the backhaul is a backhaul. And as a broker, if you see it from that standpoint too, is, you find those you look to have those conversations with those higher level, like what Will said, because that's where you can get an idea, right? If you have a conversation with a higher level person and they're saying they just don't seem to care, they don't,
If you're convincing an owner up, though, you have to be that guy that educates them on business, because a lot of those guys don't understand that they're running a business. Mm-hmm. They're running a truck and they're chasing a dollar, and the dollar amount with the higher value is always more attractive. And then when you explain it to them like that, a lot of times you'll get guys that understand that, and they'll realize that, that backhaul or whatever for $200 might cost them tomorrow. You didn't get unloaded because it was an unfamiliar lane, and now you have a day that you just paid yourself $200 and cost yourself the next load.
Mm-hmm. And the thing is, though, that's not all owner ops. I'm saying, though, those are the people you have to put the time into, but create leaders within that fleet. Man, when I've got some great drivers, like Randy, I can name them, and those guys just get it. And I learn from them. Like, they're telling me, like, they're going in, like, they're giving me like sales leads. Like, hey man, I know they're hauling this out of this state, or I know we got this lane going. Or give them a call. Give this shipper a call. That I got some buddies that run out there. They pay good. Things like, I'll talk to them next time we go in. But like, I'll have them, like, if a guy doesn't get it, I'll have like another driver in the fleet call. And you want to talk about driver retention? If a guy feels like he's a leader in a fleet, he's sticking around, man, and he gets it and he understands it. And now everybody's kind of on the same page. They're probably going to listen more to the driver that's calling them rather than me, if they're being that stubborn. So yeah, I mean, it's a constant becoming not just an operator, but becoming an owner operator, and understanding the ins and outs and how much those little things add up. Having a good broker, having a good customer, you got to manage both sides. Tim, now JB Hunt has a lot of freight, right? So even on your broker side, how much do you actually take from JB Hunt's brokerage side for backhauls?
I was going to answer. So right now we have a broker division, JB Hunt too. Mm-hmm. I have actually owner operators working tomorrow too, and like small local carriers in my area, and they get a flat fee, right? And the problem is for them is that some of them are good, some of them are bad. You gotta say that. We send them to they don't like. I live in the tri-state area, and the number one thing people do not want to go is New York, right? Mm-hmm. We pay them extra to go in New York. And with a sleeper truck, I can't fit a sleeper in there. I can't get a 48 into Brooklyn or to Queens. It's you have to convince them to, or talk to the owner operator or the owner of the company and say, hey, can you send a day cab instead? So we get the freight out. It's only 30 miles, and we paid them so much money already, and just build up basically, and they want more. So you're gonna pay me for traffic, and you're gonna pay me for like that, like dude, the breakdown. What do you mean? The trailer broke down. How am I gonna get paid for this? And those are things that I had to deal with basically with the brokers too, mm-hmm. and with my managers. And I'm like, hey, this guy wants this. Can you give him a little more extra, like $200 more? So it's just like some of the operators I work with on a daily basis, they're pretty good. Smaller carriers, they're all right. I mean, communication basically, because it's the only thing we can do is communicate with them on the phone. And it's calling them, hey, where you at? I had a guy basically sat there for 3 hours in the store volume telling us, and he wants to come back and do another load for us to cover something else to go to Phil. Like, yeah, I can't, sorry. And it's like, well, we pay you this amount of money, man. I mean, like, you gotta let us know what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? So what happened is that I think a couple of days ago we dropped them. It was not, service-wise and reliability, like you said, TJ. We're just like, yeah, you're not reliable. You're not communicating. We're paying you this amount of money ready, so we just dropped them. And we told the broker side, like, yeah, please do not send this certain person again to to us. So
yeah, and you have to make those decisions sometimes, and that's just kind of how it is. And I've always was really big on like the fact things happen, right? Things go wrong, and I know on the brokerage side, the things that pissed me off most was when people would just ghost you and they wouldn't answer. I mean, it drove me nuts. So if we broke down, if something went wrong, which is just going to happen. I mean, I had all the documentation, whether it was mechanic bills, whether it was invoices, whatever it is, I'm sending that over to the broker. Like, I want them to see it. I mean, it doesn't matter. It may not even matter that maybe they may have moved on, but at the end of the day, like if I failed, I want them to know why. And that is, it was legit, because everybody out there says their truck broke down when half the time it didn't. Okay. So I want them seeing that it did, and if I have a driver that's being an asshole, not doing what he's supposed to be doing, dicking around, I'm gonna let him know. I'm straight up telling him, I'm gonna deal with this internally. I apologize for this. This is not how we do things. This guy did this. I'm gonna talk to him about it. I apologize. This is not how we do our serve. I'm gonna let him know, straight up. I try to be as honest as I possibly can, because I feel like they don't get that very often. I know they don't, because I've been on the brokerage as well. And when you do get that, you're kind of like, man, all right, this dude, he's being real with me, man. I get it. I mean, that makes sense. Even after a failure, they'll still come back to you.
I have owner operators, and it's like, oh, it's not my trailer. It's not my problem. You know what I'm saying? Like, dude, the landing gear broke. You know what I'm saying? You didn't tell us that. And someone, if someone picked it up and dropped in the fifth wheel, basically you're going to get injured. Like, you didn't got to tell us some stuff. You know what I'm saying? It's like, well, it's not my trailer. It's not my problem. You know what I'm saying? Like, dude, we're going to bill you for this. This is costing money. It costs JB Hunt money, basically, or the maintenance. Basically, maintenance is a huge thing in JB Hunt, basically, because of safety. Yep. Equipment safety with the driving. Basically, I crossed. Everybody knows the famous George Washington Bridge here in the and nobody will cross that bridge. They said, "Oh, can you pay me extra $100 more if they cross the bridge?" I was $100 more. I was like, dude, you
know why? You know why?
Yeah,
because it costs 120 to cross the bridge.
Exactly.
You know why else? If you break down on the GW, it's 10 grand automatically tow.
Yep.
10 grand. They've got tow trucks sitting there waiting. If you break down, it's 10 grand.
Yep.
Same with the tunnels, man. I used to haul oversized office trailers on to Long Island, and then, man, 2 axles or 1 axle on a 35-foot, 10-foot wide office trailer, and you're getting it out to Long Island. And man, the roads are crap, and you're trying not to blow one of these stupid throwaway tires that's meant for one trip. And man, I'll drag it off the bridge. I don't care. I'm going to drag that I'm going to drag it to the other side of the bridge and get off the bridge.
10K bottom line. And so it's funny. My owner told me a story about this guy that was all pissed off. He was a company driver, so it wasn't his truck. And he was all pissed off. I guess dispatchers pissed him off. They blah, 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 blah. So he drove out, was going into New York, George Washington, parked it, middle of the lane, got out, walked away.
What?
Cost the company 10 grand.
Holy smokes.
So he abandoned the truck in the trailer?
Yep.
Oh yeah.
On the bridge?
Yep.
But that's
wow.
But see, what I've done is I've got, if I've got loads that go to New York or go to the island, there's guys that know how to do it and don't mind it. I have those guys call them because they have tricks. They have things they do. I'll have a guy that does it a lot of time. Hey, will you call Bill? Bill doesn't want to run this load. I understand. He doesn't. Will you tell him exactly what you do, where you park, how you get in, where you go to, what you do? Yeah, I'll give him a call, let him know. And like, those are cool things like that. I don't know all that stuff, like I know I got a ton of money to go out there. That's all I really know. And they like that because they're kind of like balking at, like they kind of want it, but like, I understand them not being comfortable with it. I mean, I wouldn't want to be, I don't know. I mean, it's weird, but when you got somebody that calls you and they know, they're like, if you take out, 85 and just drop around 70, take this bridge instead. Come up. Now, listen, there's going to be a 7-Eleven over, like they're going to know, like, and they could tell you like, how to kind of, the guy knew like where there was like a parking like before the bridge, and he wouldn't cross until he absolutely had to. He had like some sort of strategy in which he was in and out. I don't know. He had somewhere he knew where he parked, but he knew a guy because the company he used to run for was on the East Coast, and he used to run seafood. And so he knew a guy, and he helped out some of the other drivers that were going out there.
I used to know a company in Long Island, right? They actually sold their assets, their day cabs and trailers. Mm-hmm. And I sold it for splinter vans and box trucks. So what they do is they take their box trucks all the way to Jersey, right? Jersey City or Jersey, and translate it from the day cab from pubs and stuff. That's so smart. That is so smart.
With the lift gate?
Yeah, the lift gate and everything.
Yep.
So what happened is that he has a contract with UPS and FedEx to translate everything to a box truck and get everything into the Bronx, to the island back. And he has 200 box trucks and 100 splinter vans. Mm-hmm. So it's $5 on price. So he made, and also it lowered down insurance. So he sold all the trailers and plug trailers just to do. He has plug trailers still, but all the 40 infantry he sold basically. He's making more money now than ever. Mm-hmm. He has a contract with Amazon. He has a contract with UPS and FedEx. Mm-hmm. So that's
I used to that's it. Just having the expedite division. Circle's always been huge in expedite, and so knowing that and having the equipment. I've had to do that mainly in like emergency things, but yeah, the box truck with the lift gate, man, you go in there and the guys will help unload it, load it over. I mean, sometimes it takes 2, but But yeah, that's a great idea. Just have that there to go onto the island, right?
Yep.
I mean, that's all he's doing.
That's all he's doing basically. All he does is transloading, like even with SDs, like the LTLs basically. All the LTL comes here. He just goes to Jersey City, or I forget where it was. But all he does is that he also do air freights too. Like the air freight comes in, he just use the box truck. You go and making more money on that than ever. Like just the selling. So even you don't let out his insurance. I was like, dude, that's the smartest thing.
You got box trucks and you're there by the airport. I mean, because I've done the air freight thing, the Expedite side of there, and it's like they're all over. Like, hey, jet's gonna land soon. Plane's here. Plane's almost there. Where's all right. Once it's loaded, from the time it's loaded to here, and sometimes they're only like 6 miles. But it's got to get out of the plane. It's got to get to where it's got to go. I mean, quick.
I remember some of the shippers in Long Island and Queens, Brooklyn, right? They specifically told the brokers no sleepers, right? Because they were shut down. Like, what do you want to shut down? Like, first, we can't shut down there. Also, the streets are so narrow. Like, what are you going to? They can't turn. They can't turn. Even with a box truck, basically. I was like, I used to deliver too, and I was just in those places. Like, dude, even with a 33 box truck, basically back in the day, we had it. Like, dude, it's too tight. Like, we have to triple park and block the whole intervention, and the cops would just come to you. You can't block the street, man. And I remember one time it was so busy, a fire truck started coming, and we had nowhere to go. It's different.
I remember doing white glove, and we had I think it was paintings or something. We were on Wall Street, delivering on Wall Street, white glove service, and we get a call saying, this dude's just pissed. Your driver is blocking the street on Wall Street right now, blocking it, blah, 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 going on and on, like just going off about this driver that's like blocking because he didn't know where to park. There was nowhere to park, and they needed it, and they were like on the curb, like waving him in to get it, or whatever, and like they were yelling at us, so it's intense, man, going in there. I mean, I don't know, Tony, you ever hauling horses in there, brother?
Yep.
And
we imported quarter horses, man. I mean, try doing it with live animals.
Livestock, huh?
Really? Yeah, try doing it with live animals, bro. It's fun.
You gotta feed them.
Oversized loads and live animals. I've been all over the city. It's a little bit difficult. New Jersey, Timothy, sorry, love you, but man, what's with the clover leaves, man? I want to be able to hang a right and not go on the clover leaf.
Oh, you mean the right turn stuff? Yeah, I hate that. I was like, I guess it's the reason why they do that is just to make traffic easier on with the but it doesn't always work.
Yeah, when you're in Jersey and you get off the highways, they have no turns. You get to an intersection and there's this tiny little clover leaf like you would see on an interstate, and you have to go past the intersection and loop around and then go straight through the intersection from the right. That's how you make a left turn. It's like a Michigan left.
Michigan does no left turns too. Yeah,
it's crazy.
I don't know. That's crazy, but
yeah. It's a good time. The city is stressful, and it's worth every extra red cent the driver gets, because I used to have fingers. I chewed them off on the way in there.
I also tell the drivers, they always ask me, how come you stop driving? I was just like, is it the physical? No, it's a psychological. It really was. Like sitting in traffic, it's a psychological thing, right?
Oh yeah.
And like they had to go, it had to be so I had to be in a doctor's appointment. I'm stuck in traffic for 2 hours. And I feel I told them I can't do it anymore. I told them, I was great. I told them that you gotta get me on the office. I know every single place. I know the routes. I know the back. Like you could do like alternative routes. So it was I told them like, all right, that's fine. You know what I'm saying? I can't do it. I'm gonna go. Psychologically the same, basically crossing a bridge and being in traffic every single day. I remember one day, Tony, I was from Long Island, right? I had to go to South Jersey. It took me 4 hours to get there. 4 hours.
Wow.
I could have been 4 hours.
I've had guys tell me, I'm not going to the island anymore. I went through 2 packs of cigarettes just trying to get from Jersey to across the bridge.
Yep, I'm a terrible fleet manager, truck driver boss guy here in the middle of nowhere, Indiana, because I have been out on Long Island and in the Bronx, and with these 60-foot trailers, and it's so much more difficult. And then I hear guys complain about having to go to Chicago or Wabash, Indiana, and I'm like, guys, you have no idea how easy this is, and if you can't do this, you're not really a good driver. And they're like, they get all mad at you.
I don't want to go to Wabash because I don't want to
You
go
need
to
to
Peyton.
experience hard.
I tell this to anybody, right? Owner operators to truck, right? If you could drive in New York City and Jersey, you could drive anywhere. I
Yes.
tell that to every single person. I told them that this
Yeah.
is, you know what I'm
The
saying?
only time
People-
the only time I let that slide is I got a couple older guys, a couple older drivers that run that are just like, I don't do Chicago. They just tell me straight up, I'm not really chasing the money. I've driven for 35 years. I don't do Chicago. I don't do New York, big cities. I've already done it. I've done it for 30 years. I'm over it. If you don't got a load that pays good going somewhere else, I'll stay home, cut wood, hang out with the wife, no big deal. So they're not even like, they're not one of those drivers that's like saying the biggest thing is when they like don't want to run a load and then they bitch about not making money. That's one thing. But these guys are like, hey, listen, man, this is where I want to go. If you don't have anything, that's fine. No problem at all. But like those are the ones I let slide a little bit because it's like, all right, I get it.
Yeah, that's driver preference there. That's just what some people choose. We ran a lot of regional out of the South End area, and I'll go to Chicago 3 or 4 times before I go to Detroit, just because I had so much bad luck in Detroit. I never had the good luck there, but I got a buddy of this family up there, and he goes up, he'd prefer Detroit over Chicago. So
I blow a tire every time.
Yeah, he go up there and love it. Stop by, have lunch with grandma, and then keep coming back. And I'll go to Chicago and get some Portillos and have some
I think the
Italian beef.
I have a lesser evil. Either you go to New York City, you go to Philly, right? You go to Philly, you go to Washington D.C., right? I got all these. I was like, what's your pick here? I mean, like, you go to D.C. now, you're going to be stuck at the 495 anyway. Around
Yep.
You go to New York, said like, dude, dude, this is the East Coast, man. And I hate to say this, so I told him there's 2 things, Tony. I told drivers you could not ask me. All right, 2 things: the weather. All right. You got to ask me about the weather. I was like, go outside, look at the weather, all right? And you tell me how's traffic. Where do you live? where do you live?
That's a very relative term. I'm from Manhattan. Manhattan, Kansas? Yeah, traffic's terrible. Manhattan, Long Island, New York? Well, traffic's normal.
I had a guy in Florida, a broker, right? He was asking me something in the shipper, right? And it's like, well, I gotta go to the island, all right? I'm like, which island? Like this, Long Island, Staten Island? I mean, like Long Island, like which island? I'm just like, the first like you got because the freight detail was so vague, like hot freight, got to go to the island, and I report which island. The guys didn't understand the question. I was like, I screenshot a map and send it back to him and pointed out all the islands. I was like, which island? And he thought it was a jerk, but I was just like, dude, you gotta be specific in your load, man.
Gilligan's.
Yeah, Gilligan's Island. I was like, Rutgers Island is going to the prison. I was like, we gotta be Pacific here, man.
So
And,
the KPIs that you run, Timothy, how are you running those? Like you said, just to provide upper management.
Yeah, it's drivers. I also do drivers performance, like I said before, right? Those who was on-site report, utilization of drivers too. And like I said, I know people run their clock. You just like all the time to like make 3 loads in their hours services. So those are the reports because that's profitability, right? Drivers make more money, more loads, right, for them and for the company. So I also try to teach the drivers basically, you know what, you have run your clock, but you have like 4 or 5 hours left, you could do something else. Run a small load, a backhoe, or pick up something, you know what I'm saying, a trailer. I always tell them that there's always opportunities to make money. Either you're a company driver or owner operator. There's always gonna be loads. And I also tell them there's gonna be days you gotta take shit loads, right? You make some money, then no money, right?
Yep.
That's why I say to them. And also you gotta take a hit, man. You maybe going 50 miles, but tomorrow you may go 300 miles. So you gotta take some lose, take some wins. That's why I say to anybody, in company drivers or owner operators.
And that's what a good fleet manager and a good person to dispatch does. Is push the driver outside that. But what you'll run into a lot of times is you see the dispatcher actually saying, oh, all right, I got you load. And the driver will be like, well, I got like 4 hours left. Be like, oh, well, just shut down and we'll just get you one tomorrow, whatever. So I always tell brokers, like, if you got a load that picks up first thing in the morning, like early in the morning, find a guy that's posted that evening. He may be posted that evening because he's only got like 2 hours left and all he wants to do is just pick up the load and shut down anyways. Right. So if you start calling on a guy that's posted for that day, for the day before, and he's only got a couple hours, he just wants to pick up and shut down. You can be like, hey, listen, if you're only wanting to pick up and shut down, you can go over to the shipper actually and shut down there and stay there or stay right. There's a place right there. You can stay and pick up at 6 a.m. It'd be the same. I mean, same thing, get your hours back or whatever. And then vice versa too. If you got one for that night, you can, if you've got a load for that night, you can look at guys that are posted for the next day. If there's trucks posted for the next day, again, the dispatcher may just be like, don't even worry about it today. You only got a couple hours. Just pick up tomorrow. We'll just post you up for tomorrow. Well, you could call and be like, the guy's like, well, the driver actually does have like 3 hours left on him. Oh, cool. That's all you got to do is go over, get loaded, So like, there's ways to work around that. But I feel like, do you share those KPIs and those driver metrics? Do you share them with the drivers?
Yeah, I do. I do them. I always coach them basically how to, even with safety. Like safety is a huge thing. I told them that we live in New York, but like we drive safe. We know, especially with weather and traffic here being crazy. I told them like I don't care. It's like if it's gonna be hourly because of traffic, you be safe. That's fine. I tell the customer ahead of time, the stores, whatever. Tell them, hey, it's safety basically. I like a lot of my drivers basically. I coached them up. I had a guy started a couple months ago, right? Had to hitting something, and just like you got to drive safer. This is not a Corvette. You know what I'm saying? This is a day cab of like 80,000 pound, weight basically. You got to drive safe, man, especially where we are. And so he's been doing pretty well. I mean, safety is having no safety yet for the last couple of weeks. So there's always the coaching him.
Do you share specific KPIs with like metrics and bumpers, like high end, low end, or are you looking at outliers and stuff like that only?
Because I report to my management about drivers utilization reports, like I said, and how the account is running basically with profitability. With my upper management basically. They want to know what's going on, what we can improve on. So,
Will, do you ever have any carriers or dispatchers or drivers share any type of metrics with you guys?
Not at the driver level, unless, so we run some dedicated fleet style business with a couple of different fleets where we have access to their drivers and we run them on our freight exclusively. So there's a lot more detail there, but most of it comes down to profitability metrics. So what is the fleet looking for on a particular truck or a particular week? We'll have drivers say, or just hypothetically speaking, hey, we got to make 5K per week on this truck, right? Okay, great. So what we're looking at is making sure that what we're loading them with gets them to or above the metrics that they want. But in terms of hours of service utilization and things of that nature, not that far in depth. I wouldn't be surprised if at some point with the fleets that we work very closely with, we do, so that we can start maximizing what they're able to run and make sure that we're getting the most efficient use out of those hours. But currently, no.
And Timothy, I don't know if you guys are allowed to do this or if you do it, but I've shared it. I've personally just volunteered it. So there's been times where, broker's like, this is a new lane for me. I've got a couple carriers want to run it, this and that, like, listen, I'm going to put my guy on it. I'll send over, some metrics, some KPIs on what this guy's, what safety score for the actual truck, like this guy wants to run this, man. He wants to run it dedicated. He wants to be at this rate. We can work on the rate, but this is where he's at. This is what his, his metrics have looked like the last couple of months and everything like that. And I think that's another thing you can do. I mean, there's just a lot of things with, as a carrier, is just transparency. If you're doing things correctly, you shouldn't have anything to hide. And, things go wrong, you just got to accept it. And people are going to understand if you can actually show some proof of it and actually just explain it and not ghost them. People just don't like delivering bad news, but sometimes I do that up front, just out front. If it's a lane I really want for a backhaul, and it works out well. But Tony, what you've got, your fleet's so local, right? That
Yep.
Do you have KPI? Do you have measure? I mean, do you have?
Oh, absolutely. So we measure geo fences, and our trucks have cameras and inward and outward facing and safety system and all that. We get the alerts. So what I look at is a lot of the data that I crunch on the cameras and the GPS system is geo fences. So you can set up a geo fence for a customer, a carrier, yard. A lot of what I used to do before was I'd look at every place that's not a customer and that was not a fuel stop. Like we leased a lot of trucks from Penske, so you would exclude Penske as a geofence. So I would look at, there's a McDonald's, there's a gas station with truck fuel that they can get in and park and use the restroom, grab lunch, whatever. And then I would create an average for the fleet. So then I would say, hey, all right, guys, here's the average for our fleet. driver A, this is your annual review. We're going to go across this. And I just look, you compared to the average is this. This is you. This is the average with you in it. This is the average with you out it. You're pulling the average down. You're spending less time in there. That means the truck's operating more. And the more your truck's operating, the more turns we're getting, the less downtime you've got. It's just like a machine at that point, like a machine in a factory. And then, you know, I had two guys that were these wild exceptions that were way off the charts on, you know, this one guy ended up, it was like 55 hours of time spent at gas stations in 1 year. And I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, well, I eat breakfast and then I eat lunch and then I eat a snack and then I go to the bathroom. You know, all of those things can be done while we're loading your trailer back here at the shop and our bathroom and our break room and our lunchroom. And while we're still loading your truck. And, you know, when you coach them up like that, you're giving them encouragement on how to be more efficient so that they can then come to me and fight for more money. I want to give you more money. It's not coming out of my paycheck, it's coming out of the company. But if I can make you more efficient, more conscious to make better, smarter business decisions, then you can reward that driver with making those good choices with a maybe pay bump in this year's review instead of
you're not telling them they can't do it. You're just telling them a more efficient way to do it.
Right. And I'm giving them a metric. Drivers are competitive by nature anyways. I mean, we're all competitive to some degree, but if you give them a metric and tell them where they're at in relation to that metric, you're giving them a clearly defined expectation and a way to measure themselves against that expectation. And that is the key to letting somebody self-regulate.
Yeah, I used to just with the competitiveness, I'd do that. I'd be like, what do you mean you don't want to run? Come on, man. I thought you were like a good driver. All of a sudden, oh, Mr. Super Trucker. Not, you know, Bill ran this yesterday. Bill said
he had a 65-inch screen in the lounge in the driver area where they picked up their paperwork from the window with the big metric on there on who was in what position, and it was a safety score and uptime and most miles driven. So, you know, there wasn't one metric that somebody could win on, but you'd have to average those metrics. But it was neat putting it up on a screen because they'd come in there and razz each other. Oh, you got 18 miles this week. You suck. You know, oh, I didn't turn my GPS on right or something. You know, I didn't log into the truck. And then they get razzed for that.
Mine wasn't as organized. It'd be like, yo, Bill brought home 4K this week, man. You're going to go home? All right. Bullshit. I'll call. All right. Give me the load. All right, tell Bill I'm calling him. You know, like, you know, you can kind of do those things every once in a while. It depends on your relationship with them. But having those that is key. I think having the local and the guys that can come in. But see, your guys can come in after their shift too. See, that's key. My guys are the, you know, the owner operators are out on the road. They don't get like access to that. That'd be nice to have like a platform though for them to see.
Yep. Anyway, it was very cool because they would razz each other on who was lowest performing, and and it's almost like auto set it and forget it. Ronco rotisserie shipping.
Well, so like the other major I use, right, is for me is that, you know, the user 70, right? I have one driver use almost all his 70. I have one driver use less than half of that. So what does that tell you about that driver? What does it tell you about that driver, right?
Yeah, I mean, didn't want it.
I have another guy basically is using half. I was like, how come he's making this money? Because he utilizing just his drive, making 3 loads a night or doing another extra day to make the money. You don't want to do that. I understand you have family and personal, but you know, there's always work. You just don't want to do it.
Mm-hmm. I always try to hold that in my back pocket as long as it waits for him to complain, right? Then you'd be like, oh yeah, you're complaining, but here's the numbers.
Yep, exactly.
But you know, I had a guy that was so good at his e-logs that he never took a reset. He ran the exact amount of hours he needed to run each day so that the rollover made it so he never had to reset.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he had to take his 10, he took his, 10 every day, but he never had to reset because the way he would run it, he that's why he'd be like, you know what, I'll take this load out. I'm just going to deadhead back, or like he'd have it set up so that he never took his, because he understood the amount of money you lose when you take a reset. He understood how the hours worked. And all that stuff. So like he was like, he had it down to a T, man. It was unbelievable. But he'd be like, no, I'm gonna go pick it up now, TJ, and then do this, and then blah blah blah. And I'm like, oh, okay, all right, that's fine. I just trusted him. I learned a lot from him too.
I know we're short of time, but like Tony was saying, basically, I also teach is time management, right? Like the guy spent 55 hours time management. Like, dude, you could have done so much of the 55 hours, right? You could have used, right? It was just sitting there. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know when the guy took breaks, like in and out, like full bathroom breaks. Like, dude, you're going 50 miles. Why do you need full bathroom breaks? You know what I'm saying? Or fueling up, basically. It's just sometimes you just don't want to, sometimes I don't feel like working. I don't want to just waste my clock and my time to do something else. It's like, dude, that's on you, man.
The reality is that we'll wrap it up with this.
Man.
Every driver's different.
Yep.
Luis Claudio, you guys have met him. He's the type of guy, you get all fired up. Oh, look at this. You take a picture of his Qualcomm. I just set the parking brake 1 minute left. You know what I mean? Like, the young guys fired up, ready to go. Then an older guy that just is running to run, or a guy that's inexperienced, or a guy that doesn't care, or whatever it is. You're going to have that. So I think at the end of the day, the KPIs and the metrics, whether it's in brokerage, whether it's in a fleet, whether it's in anything, what it does is it allows you to get to know the person and understand what their weaknesses are, and understand if that's something they want to be strong in or not. And that gives you an idea of what your fleet is, where your strengths are in your fleet. Just like having a evaluation on players on a football team, right? I mean, you just know, like, hey, I've got, a stable of running backs, don't have great wide receivers, whatever it is. And you could put your game plan then to where your strengths are. And if you've got X amount of guys that are running, hard in a certain area and some that aren't in another, you can game plan to that then. So I think that's the key there, is to get to know the drivers. Every driver's different. Everyone has a different motivation or a different, mindset even, or a different point in their life, whether it's financially, whether it's, relationships, whatever it is that they have going. So just getting to know them and getting to know not only them personally, but then having numbers to sit down and actually have a conversation with them on what they want to do and how, it fits into your operation, can either motivate them, or it can allow you to at least understand that, hey, listen, there's weakness here and there's strength here. I'm going to use you here. And instead of forcing a square peg into a round hole, I think it just allows your fleet to run that much better.
I know we're running out of time, but I just actually today started a incentive driving program too, to reward drivers too. You know what I'm saying? For safety and miles, basically. So, and my boss said that's a great idea, because I applied it to my other accounts too. I was like, just to motivate them to do, to do better, utilize them times, and be safe and be on time with service with my customers. So this is a great idea. So I'm gonna start doing that actually this week and next week going forward, and I'll let my bosses know. So
it shows you care, because right now, when recruiting is tough, because recruiting drivers is so hard right now, everybody's making money and wants to leave. Driver retention is just as important. Yeah. If you do nothing into driver retention and everything into driver recruiting, what's the difference? Wow, you gained 2 drivers, cool, you lost 2. So it just ends up being a wash, and it's so inefficient. So yeah, that's key. Whether or not they sometimes telling them something they don't want to hear could motivate them, but it shows you care. You just got to approach it the right way. Everybody's different. I don't care if you're a broker or you're a dispatcher that's dealing with them directly. Yep. Will, I know you've had relationships with drivers and fleet managers in which you've, sat down and said, hey, we really need you to do this. Could you do this? Or, I've seen this, or, whatever it is. And they may be giving you some feedback or whatever it is, but it just, at the end of the day, it just shows that you care. And that's really what they worry about. They don't want to just get calls saying, where are you? Where are you? Where are you? And then you don't ever talk to them again. If you're talking strategy with them, I think that's key to that relationship.
Yeah, it shows you you care, and it shows you direct them bosses like, hey, you know what, you care about your drivers. You're all, you want to utilize your driver. You want fleet operation efficiency, basically. Actually we're hiring right now actually for a couple more drivers. But like I said, it's tough. I deal with drivers and yard jockeys in right now. So it's just toggling both ways, especially if I'm fully capacitated tomorrow. Looks like, I'm sorry, I'm looking at my schedule right now, and like I said, it's always about just relationship, right? Just it's tough, but making it easier for them, make them understand. I really drop my time basically I give 5 minutes to my time to see what's going on with them. You know what I'm saying?
That's the key. And so that's, to wrap this up, that's what it's about. KPIs, whether, again, brokerage, asset, fleet, whatever it is, it's about getting to know people. It's about getting to know people's strengths, where your weaknesses and strengths are in your operation. They're so key. Not only do they help those people, but they help you as well. So, Timothy, thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you.
Honestly,
Appreciate it, man.
the Tang got to come on with us today. rumors in there. Jonathan Trimble's in the comments here. I helped him out. He parked a trailer for us. So, relationships, doing things for people, trying to make things happen. Keep it going, guys. And if you know somebody out there that can introduce you to a bunch of people to help your social networking, Tony, then get to know them because
It's
inside
gonna be
joke.
the Tang.
The Tang. Give it up for the Tang. Thanks for coming on, man.
I appreciate you coming out.
Thank you, TJ.
Big support. Thanks for being around and coming on, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it too. Thank you.
See you guys.